I would have wanted a far more clear statement than that. But this is good news. Don't be mistaken. This is good news. I am a bit of a prick, but it is good news. So as they say, apparently the advantages, because of course you and me, dear player of World of Warcraft, both really enjoyed the advantages of the rigid covenant design in 9.0 and 9.1. While the downsides, brackets, feeling disadvantaged in certain types of content or having to choose between mechanical advantages and aesthetics, have only grown. I think it is the case, they are right here, that even if you were to say there were disadvantages or advantages, which obviously I do just disagree with, they are very true that the disadvantages have only grown and grown and grown, especially once the content runs out. And then, you're only really left with like engaging with the systems, and the systems have issues. That balance of factors no longer justifies the original limitations of covenant switching. So 9.1.5, we're looking to provide a way to circumvent them. Okay. The justification was never there in the first place. And if you admit it, it will go down well with players. That's just how it is. Just how it is. Just how it is. Now then, Conduit Energy, however, is a different story. Oh boy, howdy. I think it's a very similar story, but this is all what I would call true. The system simply has not played out the way we hoped it would. I find that to be one of the most hilarious statements, because look, I know that hope is important, and Sylvanas' whole thing has been killing the old hope. I don't know, maybe if Sylvanas had have killed hope even harder, that they would have been realistic about what they were putting in the game, because there was just about zero universe where Conduit Energy actually made sense. And again, with conduits, we told them that the initial consumable version of it, which is was a bunch of wank that would not be good in the game. And eventually they relented. And then they felt they had to do Conduit Energy. We consistently told them Conduit Energy was a really bad design. And we did that from the start of beta. I want to know, why was this not removed earlier? And why was there not more communication on it earlier? I think these are still important questions as much as we are getting good stuff.
I mean, here's the one thing that I'm thinking reading that. Why, and maybe you could answer this, why are they hoping a system will play out the way it does? Why aren't they thinking a system should play out?
Well, that's it, isn't it? I've heard from, I've heard from sources within Team 2 that there is a, basically an attitude of shit it out and hope for the best. Which, I mean, what, Jesus, that feels like you're, I don't know, dealing with a local council or something. Yep. Where it's a bunch of unaccountable, very weird to see from, as a perspective. And, I did hear that from a few sources, actually, which was very surprising to me, because I really don't think that you should be hoping.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not saying they should be second guessing all the time and hedging every single bet they make, but I mean, it's not like this is, I'm not saying that this is a solved game like you're a blackjack card counter and in the long run you've mathed it out and you will win. But just given that it was unanimous negative feedback from players, it should not have taken this long, because 9.1.5 is probably going to come out, let's be realistic, near enough to 1 calendar year after the Shadowlands expansion, right? And that is just the reality of the customer's experience. And the reason I want to hammer that and hammer that and hammer that is because when you're developing a game, it is a different perspective. And sometimes it seems there needs to be a reminder of the customer's experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I don't pay them a tenner a month for what they hope. I don't pay them a tenner a month for what they want to do. I pay them a tenner a month for what they deliver to me as an experience. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that, even reading this, I'm like, I'm trying to keep this in mind. I don't want you to hope. I want you to think. I want you to know. It's your job to know.
Yeah.
That's what you're literally paid for, to know how your systems will work, because that's what design is doing.
It's not your job to have a hissy fit about a perceived bullshit problem that doesn't exist, or, only exists logically in your head, but not really in terms of a player experience. And then to do something like Conduit Energy and hope for the best. That is I mean, yeah, that's falling woefully below what I expect from a professional designer.
Exactly.
Again, professional. Like, if you're working in a bank, you're not going to get away with some of these records. You know, high standards should be everywhere, including game dev. So moving on, we should have heeded community feedback and taken a different direction a year ago.
Good.
Why not? Why not? Like, please, I want to know. Was it ego? Did you disagree? Did reality prove your assumptions wrong? I feel like it was a betrayal of player sentiment, this whole debacle, to the point where I actually, I think a lot of people as customers, they're happy with what's going to be going on here, but they want to see evidence that this has been meditated upon and that they understand the mistake that they made. So I want to see some good, I want to see this good change. I praise this good change. This is fantastic good change. But again, I want to know a little bit more. I want some texture on this. And I want to know, why in the developer interviews, why was, really both interviews between Ian Hazzikostas, game director of World of Warcraft, and Preach, why were they such disasters? When were, I feel like it's been messy to the point where these are now relevant questions that I think people need to have answered in their heads in order to regain faith. That said, action does speak louder than words. We are seeing good action, and I praise that. But again, and this is maybe not going to be as much of a thing for the the more fair weather people. I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but for those of us who have really been here day in, day out with all of this stuff, maybe we are just too close to the issue. But to continue anyway, a majority of players largely ignore the system and are unaffected by it. That's me. Absolutely, that is me. While the minority who want to engage in multiple content types competitively feel constrained by it. Overall, that adds up to a negative experience. Conduit Energy isn't really making the game better in any appreciable way, so we're removing the system entirely. Good. Yep. Now, revisit your posts and utterances justifying this system. Revisit those. Think deeply. I would like it if we then got an explanation as to the inner workings out. Because in my job, if I cock up, I don't just say, oh, hey, whatever, we're changing this thing going forward. I usually will want to explain so that people understand, because that also helps to show that maybe, in a case where I've cocked up, that I've learned and grown and that I've been I've reflected, upon the issue.